Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center. And for more than 20 years, I've been working with accounting professionals to actually help them start and build successful businesses offering quality accounting services and getting paid what they're worth. It's here on the podcast that we actually have a variety of guests coming on each and every week to share their insights as to what it is we can be doing in our businesses to not only market, grow, and sell our firms, but offer quality services and retain the clients that we need to so that we can get paid what we're worth. Now, with that being said, I'm excited about the individual that I have on the show today. This is someone I've been looking to actually have for some time. She's someone I've known of for over a year now, and it's Amanda Watts. Amanda happens to be very passionate and is a strategist for business advisory, as it's a driving force for business advisors. She's the driving force for Business Advisory Academy and Oomph Global. Now, as the co-founder of Uplevel by Oomph, she actually is an engaging keynote speaker. She thrives on inspiring and connecting with her audience. Amanda's mission is to actually help CPAs, accountants, bookkeepers, financial coaches, and business coaches across the globe become not only wildly wealthy, but also to impact them as advisors. Now, one of the things that she's done is, with over a decade of experience since 2009, Amanda has empowered more than 3,000 practices in 23 countries, guiding them to actually be fast in their growing, award-winning accounting firms. Now, she is also a prolific author, having written 4 books now focused on branding, marketing, and sales. She firmly believes that the business advisory is crucial to today's world, especially for small businesses seeking to thrive in the with the right financial guidance. Amanda is also committed to transforming practices into becoming beacons of success and influence by making a significant difference in the business world today. So, Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That is a mouthful. I didn't realize it was so much when I sent over my bio. All you could have said is Amanda does this and it would have been fine, but thank you. Okay.
Well, it's your world, so you're living it.
Yeah, right. But I didn't realize I'd done quite so much. So but I'm exhausted just hearing it. But there we go. Thank you.
Well, congratulations. You're obviously in the right place, because we have a lot that we would love to learn from you. Let me just back up and actually start with your experience as it relates to business advisory. I know that you've recently been working with accounting firms, but tell us about how you got started here.
Yeah, absolutely. So many years ago, like when I was 15 years old, I saw my dad get made redundant. So my dad's a tax technician and he used to work for the Big Four. And when he was working for one of the Big Four, he got made redundant. And it was back in the 90s. We had the recession hit here and we just moved into a new house. Dad had been made partner. It was amazing. And he got made redundant and it really, really hit him and really shook him up. But he did get a redundancy fee. So he decided to invest that redundancy fee into buying a tax firm. So he said, I'm going to invest in a franchise. I'm going to go out on my own. Now, when he did this, the franchise did not help him with marketing. Now, as most accountants and bookkeepers, they don't know how to do marketing. They decide to open their firm because they're really good at accounting and they're really passionate at accounting, but they're not great at marketing. So what happened was Dad spent 2 years trying to get clients. He had an office, so that he had to have like a front-facing office on the high street. He had huge costs. All his redundancy money went, and he was stuck with no money left, no ability to go and get clients because they didn't train him how to do it. And it was just exhausting for him, absolutely exhausting. And he handed the franchise back, gave them back the keys, and was like, I'm done. So then he said, right, I'm going to be a consultant. And he decided to help with personal tax and business tax and worked really hard, was very exhausted. He then got really burnt out. And the worst thing that happened was he ended up having not a heart attack, but he had real problems with his heart and ended up having open heart surgery because of all the stress of trying to make his accounting firm work.
Wow.
Now, I was 19 years old. So that's one story. That's like my dad's story. Dad, by the way, is 77 and still working. Because,
very good.
Yeah, it is. But the problem is because he got made redundant, he didn't have the big pension that he needed to have. He found it really difficult to get the clients. So he didn't make loads and loads of money. And he wasn't taught about pricing. So he couldn't then go and get clients that paid him well. So he was overworked and underpaid. I was 19 and I was 16. in the 90s when he got made redundant, and I was due to go to university, which is the equivalent of college over in the States. But because Dad had been employed before, we earned too much money to get a loan because they worked it out on the year before. Now, the problem with that then meant that I couldn't go to university because I couldn't afford to fund myself, but I couldn't get a grant. So I was stuck. So it didn't just affect my dad, it affected me. So long story short, it was an absolute disaster. And Dad set up his own consulting firm, didn't earn very much money, and was really stressed. I couldn't follow my dreams. I wanted to go into accounting. I wanted to be like Dad, and I couldn't do that because I couldn't go to uni to do all the things I needed to do. And he was quite miserable, quite unhappy, and wasn't able to show up as a dad in the way that he really, really wanted to. And it's because accounting firms are really hard to run and nobody understands it. If you don't price properly, if you don't know how to do marketing, if you don't know how to run a business, because you're really good at accounting, but you don't know how to run a business, right? If you don't know these things, you struggle and you end up living a very mediocre life for a lot of hard work, and it breaks my heart. So the way that I got into the accounting profession was about 10 years ago. Dad said, I'm going to retire. I was like, great, that's amazing. And he said, why don't you go and help accountants? And I was like, me? Okay, I'll give it a go. And I have to say, I have not looked back. It was one of those things that I thought, I'll try and work with a couple of accountants, see if I can make a difference to the profession. And then I decided to get really passionate about it. I'm really excited about how I could make the difference. And I worked with one accountant, then I worked with two, then I worked with three, then I worked with 10, and I was like, I'm all in. That's it. This is my life. I'm going to change the profession and never let anyone go through what my dad went through, which is why I do what I do, because I don't want anyone to go through the pain that he went through. And it happens a lot. It happens.
Unfortunately, the story you're sharing is one that I've seen too often, and it's
Yeah.
one that I'm sure many of my listeners can relate to because
Mm,
very often they're very good accounting professionals, whether they're
mm,
tax specialists, bookkeepers, accountants. But at the end of the day, unless you have paying customers, it doesn't
yeah,
matter. So as good as
exactly.
you are, until you can actually figure out the marketing, the selling, the pricing, you just
Yeah,
don't have the clients you deserve to get paid what you're worth. And so what we're talking about here is, I think, very relevant. And I think it's something that a lot of the listeners to my show actually appreciate because they do want to thrive in their business, as you mentioned. And so often they have those challenges that either they've seen others experience or they themselves have
yeah,
faced. And all of a sudden, as business owners, they're going through, like your father did, this challenge of I'm good at what I do. It's just I need paying customers. And
exactly.
so your journey into getting into this space and now working with the accounting professionals to better market and sell and price their services is commendable. And that's why we're talking today, because I think what we have is both a passion for assisting the accounting profession to
Yeah,
thrive in what
yeah,
they do. So let's talk about advisory. I know you're very big on advisory. Let's first define it. For an accounting profession, for an accountant who's in business, what does advisory mean as to how it differs from, say, traditional compliancy work, maybe the tax work, the bookkeeping, and so forth?
yeah. So advisory, by the way, is pretty much a word that only the accounting and bookkeeping profession use. So in the real world, outside of our profession, we use the term advisory more coaching and mentoring and guiding and assisting and leading and helping. But the profession I have seen over the past 10 years since I've been in it loves the word advisory. Okay. That's a really scary word for someone who does compliance and who does tax, because you're basically saying to the accountant and bookkeeper, I want you to give advice to your client. But actually, what I have found is the best advice is not advice, it's asking questions and helping your clients uncover their own solutions with your guidance. So when someone says to you, oh, can I afford to buy that piece of machinery for my construction business? Your job as the advisor is not to go, let me give you that answer. It's, these are the things that I think that we should look at. Do you feel like you should be able to afford that piece of machinery? And it's the guiding and the coaching. And what would happen if you did buy that piece of machinery? What would happen if you didn't buy it? Let's come to a decision that is based in data and also make sure is in alignment with your goals and everything else. That's how advisory is different from compliance. Compliance is I'm going to do your year end. That's it. As simple as that, right? So advisory is everything outside of compliance. When you get a client send you an email going, hey, can I afford my mortgage? You've moved into advisory, right?
You know,
That's
I
what I believe.
I really appreciate you defining it that way, because what you did is summarize it succinctly to say it's not having all the answers, it's having
Yeah.
the questions so as to allow the business owner to make a proper decision. And I
Yeah.
think too often advisory implies that the advice is direction and maybe the answers, where in reality it's the questions that we're asking as we work with the business owners to help them actually come to the insights that they need to move forward. And so when you're defining advisory as those questions, because of the insights we have based on the numbers we're seeing, it does provide a greater clarity as to how that differs from maybe the traditional bookkeeping accounting role that so many are familiar with. So in conversations, some people might refer to this today more as like a CAS service, and
Yes.
that's totally fine. But the thing I want to understand is you and I work with accounting professionals that are oftentimes reluctant to move into this advisory space.
Yep.
What have you found to be the reasons why some are hesitant to become advisors?
Oh, I love that question. And the reason why is because it's subjective and people are scared. The majority of the time, and they might not admit it, but they're fearful. Some come to me and say, I'm scared if I get it wrong. Okay, that's something. I'm scared I won't have all the answers. I'm scared that I'm going to get judged because I'm going to have to put myself out. When it's about the numbers, that's making sure that you're compliant. But when you start to give advice, that's actually putting yourself out, right? So the biggest problem I see is that they're scared to move into advisory. Now, what we do at the Business Advisor Academy is go, I understand you're scared. Now what I'm going to do is get you excited, because we're going to uncover all of your experience, all of your education, everything that you have ever been through in your life. And we're going to show you that actually you've got this. So we build their confidence. We give them the questions. We give them the tools. We help them uncover their own tools. And then they go, oh, do you know what? I'm a bit fed up. I've been giving that away for free. All right, Amanda. Yep, you're right. I can do it. But it's a journey. And people tend to start about two out of 10 with confidence. And then they might be a 9 out of 10 once they've uncovered the value. And if they don't know something, they just need to know where to find it. And that could be a person, it could be ChatGPT, it could be Google, it could be coming to you, Roger. You know, they can come to you to get the answers, they can come to me. But actually, confidence comes from taking the courage to take action. It doesn't come from sitting there going, oh, now I'm confident. You've got to take the action, and that will then give you the confidence. So it's fear. That's why people don't do it. Small caveat, some people don't want to do it. That's the other reason why they don't do it. But out of the ones that do want to do it, it's fear that stops them from taking action.
Well, let me start with the last thing you mentioned. You are right. There are a number that I've worked with that have chosen this isn't something I'd like to get involved with. I like the bookkeeping services I offer. I like the tax services I provide. That's
Yeah,
where I'm very good. It's what I'm proficient at. It's my passion. I'm going to stay right there. And that's totally fine. Your business is your business as to the services you choose
absolutely.
to offer. So that's totally all right. But there are so many, like you also mentioned, that find that they do oftentimes give these types of advisory services for free. They just don't know how to package them, price them, and so forth. And so they're just indirectly offering these services and just not being paid for the wealth of information that they have, their expertise that they are. And so all of a sudden, what happens is we find ourselves just kind of voluntarily providing this as
Yeah,
this additional value that we
yeah,
haven't been able to monetize. Now, the one thing that I've found, just to add to your sense of fear, is
yeah,
I do find that there are those accountants that would be happy to offer these advisory services. But what's unclear in their own mind is, okay, I have a client, they agree to pay me for advisory services, and it may be pretty obvious what the first few months might look like as part of that engagement. But really, in their minds, they're confused as to what month 6, month 9, month 12
yes,
would look like. And
yeah,
so, because of that, they're unwilling to now sell the service because they don't know how they'll ultimately fulfill it and look, credible as they go
yeah,
through that process. So, let's go now to the idea of pricing. I
yeah,
know in offering these services, one of the challenges that we have is they just don't know how to actually price it.
yeah.
You and I have some philosophies on that.
Yeah.
How do you actually suggest someone as an accounting professional choose to price this type of a service?
Yeah. So, first of all, before we price, we have to uncover your experience. We have to uncover the education that you've got. We have to uncover who you are. So, some people are very quiet and lead quietly and steadfast. Other people get people into a frenzy and get people excited. All of these different things have different value depending on who your ideal client is, right?
Hmm.
So, what we have to do is really get clear, first of all, of what you bring to the table. Then we have to look at who's an ideal client for you. So what's really interesting is when Dad said to me, "Can you help accountants?" I went, "Eek, can they cope with my personality?" Right? Like I'm kind of in your face. I'm quite forward. And Dad went, "Well, you and I get on really well. Let's go give it a go." So I went and gave it a go and it worked. So the accountant and bookkeeper and CFO, they need to go, what am I good at? Who's a really good fit for me? And then you need to, with that experience and education, unpack step by step how you've helped past clients. So, the first thing that every single person really should be doing, every advisor should be doing with a client, is helping them get clarity on where they are now, where they want to be, and the gap in the middle. Right? Then they help them put together a plan. Then, depending on whether that business wants to exit or that business wants to grow or that business wants to make more profits, you then have a set kind of journey that you take that client on. Now, you're going to know what your favorite thing is as the business advisor. So you're going to possibly like helping them with growth. You might like to help them exit. You might like to, I've got one client who loves clearing up messes. So she's become the advisor to help businesses clear up a mess, right?
Yes.
So all of that starts before you even think about pricing, because we price on transformation. We don't price on the amount of time you spend, whether or not you're going to work with them for 2 hours a month or anything like that. It's like, you are here, business owner. I am going to help you get to here as your advisor. We're going to go on this journey. It can take anywhere between 6 months and 30 years. And we're going to price on the transformation. Now, a lot of people tend to price on their worth and how they feel. And we have to work with you to help you that, because otherwise you're going to underprice most of the time, because none of us feel amazing. But what we do is we look at it, and I get my clients to go, "Oh, wow, I didn't realize I was that awesome. Right, how do I now map out the next 3 years with a client?" And we create something called a signature methodology, which takes you through a 3-year process, step by step. And then we use something called delivery snapshots.
Okay.
And a delivery snapshot is going, in this session for advisory, I am going to use this worksheet. I'm going to describe it using this metaphor. I'm going to understand the problems that we overcome with this section in our advisory offering. I'm going to use this model to describe it so that people understand it. And I'm going to give people these actions. And by creating these delivery snapshots, my accountants might make 150 of these. So as they're working through the process with their clients, they can go, "Oh, I need that snapshot because my client said this problem. I need that snapshot." And these snapshots, once they get into the habit of it, they could create 5 or 6 of these a day. Okay, because we've mapped out the signature methodology to start with. This then transforms their confidence. So it doesn't matter if they don't know what they're doing in month 6. They know they've got the tools in their back belt to go, "Oh, I can grab this in month 6. And then once they've done it with 3 or 4 clients, they can kind of go, "Well, around month 12, I'm going to need this." Does that make sense? Like, it's ever so formulaic. Considering I'm not an accountant, it's very data and formulaic driven.
Well, it's very similar to what we do with our clients as well. You talked about the journey. You need to have clarity as to what that journey is going to look like as you do the
Yeah.
engagement with your clients. And so you're tapping in, as you mentioned, to the experience, the
Yeah.
education that the accounting professional has. They have maybe an industry knowledge or perhaps a certain passion that they bring based on a niche that they're in. Well, all of a sudden, you're going to leverage that to
Yep.
package this engagement that you're providing. You defined it as a journey, but it
Yeah.
needs to be something very intentional. I like something that is specific as to here's where you are, here's where you want to end. You talked
Yep.
about like an exit strategy or addressing challenges as it relates to growing the business. Well, once we know what that end game is, what we're trying to accomplish, it's very easy to then define what's the journey going to be like. And we're able to say, did you want to metaphorically fly there, drive there, walk there? Well, what
Yeah.
we're able to do then as the accounting professional is describe or define that journey experience and
Yes.
take them along the way.
Yeah.
Now, once that journey's been defined, you're then saying we can then determine the value of that and come up with
Yeah.
the pricing. So
Yeah.
my question was first pricing. We went to the journey. Before
Sorry.
we get to pricing, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to, now that we've already talked about the engagement and what that
Yeah.
might have looked like, I do want to talk about what that commitment is on the accountant side. How much time is this necessitating on their end? And more
Yeah.
importantly, what does the engagement look like with the client? Is this a monthly meeting? Is it an hour-long conversation? Is it twice a month? Is it 2 hours long? Tell me what you really see as an average. I'll share with you what I see as well, and then we'll end up on the pricing. So let's
Yeah.
go about
Perfect.
what does that engagement look like from a commitment?
Yeah. So I take into consideration when I work with my clients on what is it that they like doing. We're all different. And some people love to work with people for 3, 5, 10 years and take them on a journey.
Yeah.
I have other clients that are like, and especially my lady who fixes messes, she can do it in 90 days. And then, so her first sell is, I'm going to fix this mess. It's 90 days. And I'm going to work really hard with my client in those first 90 days. And then what we're going to do is then move forward, maybe with less work. So the first 90 days are intentional and quite intense. But then ongoing, it might be that you speak to them for an hour a month thereafter. Okay. So I'm a big, my favorite, like all of it's formulaic, but my favorite formula is to have 21 clients and you spend 10 hours a week with those 21 clients. So that's speaking every other week to your client. Okay. And I absolutely love that, but that's way too formulaic for every single business owner. Okay. So every single accountant doesn't want to do that. Some want to do the short stuff. Some want to create courses, which they see as passive income. It's really hard. You've got to build an audience if you want to do that. Some people want to do VIP days and work on that. So I work with my clients to help them create something that they feel would help their clients and they want. But the sweet spot, 21 clients, 10 hours a week. Every other week, speak to your client for a little bit, get them to do some homework, come back, get your team to do all the grunt work. So you shouldn't be running the reports and doing all of that if your clients need the reports, and grow your business. And if they charge, now I'll talk about pricing in a minute. We'll come back to pricing. Okay, that's my thinking, Roger. I don't know how that is compared to what you think. What's your view on it? I'd love to know your view.
I'd be happy to add it. So to complement what you've just shared, you talked of the 21 clients, the 10 hours a week. Similarly, what we find is some of the people choose to do, like you mentioned, a client meeting every 2 weeks, so twice a month, or they'll do as many as 3 a month. Now, they differ, but some do choose to do the 1 a month meeting. Now, in the case of once a month, they'll typically find that that's a 2-3 hour meeting. In the event that they're doing, say, a meeting every other week or 3 weeks of the month, it's an hour-long meeting. So at the end of the day, you're looking at about 3 or so hours a month per client that you're meeting with them. It's whether you're doing it in a single setting in once a month meetings or 3 individual hour-long meetings. But the point is that commitment is then coupled with about an hour or so of prep time and about an hour or so of post time recording what was done, maybe sending out some follow-up information. But that commitment of approximately about 5 to 6 hours a month per client, you're able to then get to, like you were describing, as many as 21 clients. So if you understand at the accountant's level, how much time am I going to be asking of my client to participate in this engagement at the advisory level? You're asking for about 3 hours a month. How much time is it going to take me to service that client? Perhaps an additional 2 or so hours more to get ready and meet with them and so forth. And so if I'm looking at 5 to 6 hours per client, that's a way for me to manage my workload and come up with, as you were describing, as much as 10 hours a week. Well, 10 hours for 4 weeks is 40 hours a month of me working with these advisory clients that I'm servicing. So you're able to reverse engineer this pretty easily and come up with, well, okay, so I know what the engagement is. I know what the time commitment for them and for myself will be. Now I think we're to the pricing. Would you agree?
Yeah. No, Actually, no. Can I add one more thing?
Please, please.
Before we get to pricing? So one of my specialisms, and I've brought this from my world before coming into accountants. So I'm really good at helping people productize.
Oh,
And
okay.
productize, and this is what we do. So although we give our accountants the tools and help them create their own tools, we show them how to take what is in their brain, all of their experience, and turn it into a packaged thing with a bow on it. Productizing starts off with best guess. Then when you do it with a client, you're like, oh, now I've got a standard that I'm working to. So you work it out and you're like, right, I need to do these things. Then what you do is you do it with another client and you go, oh, I'm going to tweak this and I can get rid of this bit and I can get, and it gets better and better and better. So what starts off as a 5-hour engagement where you have to spend an hour prepping and then you're an hour afterwards actually ends up being no prep work needed because you've already created the onboarding that you want and it's all done through video and it's all done automated. And then the after is easy to get your team to do because that's all standard operating procedures and you've created this product and it all works like clockwork and a little bit like I do. So I've taken my experience and turned it into an advisory way of teaching advisory. And I just show up for an hour 3 times a day and coach nearly 100 people every week, right? Just for an hour. I don't do the beginning bit and I don't do the end bit. So I think it's really key that before we think about pricing, we get away from the fact that it's going to be us doing all of it. And we look at, let's productize it. Let's get some systems in place. Let's standardize it. And then we can commercialize it, which is pricing. So now we can talk about pricing.
Well, I'm going to compliment what you just said. You're exactly right. The idea behind this is to get to the point that what you're creating is a system, or as you described it, a product that is redundant. And yes, each of the clients are unique and each of the clients may have individual experiences or situations that need to be addressed. But in the scheme of things, what we're trying to do here is commoditize what we're actually doing from an advisor point of view.
Yes.
You talked about taking this product and creating something that doesn't necessitate so much prep work or post work. And I agree with you. After you've been doing this for a period of time and you've done the same thing with multiple clients, it becomes so much more convenient and easy for you to just naturally do because it's something you've done, time and again. That muscle memory kicks in. And as it relates to the resources and the things that you're providing, you're starting to find that, okay, I've already done the research on this. I've already set aside let's say the sources to help with this concept. I just send these to the next client and to the next client and to the next client. And so all of a sudden, what initially might have taken a little bit of effort to prep for and meet with and mentally get ready for becomes very second nature. And that's one of the things that I think you're very smart to point out, that as an advisor moves into this space, it might be a little daunting because there's a little bit more effort on your part to define that experience and make sure it's a good one for your client. But eventually your confidence gets to the point that you've been there, done this so many times that you're going to do it again and again with the next client as well.
Exactly. With your eyes closed. So it's one of those things. We weren't born with knowledge, right? We were born, we didn't know anything. Sadly, accountants and bookkeepers often forget that they weren't born knowing how to do accounting, right? They had to train. So why do they think, and this is said with love, anyone who's listening and watching, why do you think you can just do advisory? Why don't you take a step back and go, this is a new journey. It's exciting. I'm going to learn something, but I'm going to learn the questions. I'm going to learn how to show up. I'm going to learn some soft skills because I've been hidden behind my computer, and enjoy the journey, right? Because we don't grow with the knowledge inside us. We have to go, I want to find that knowledge. And I know it's really scary. And I know that advisory is something that I would say 90% of accountants go, I can't do that. But you can if you learn and you practice, and you'll get so good at it if it's your thing. And if it's not your thing, then just really, really get good at general compliance work, because that's getting squeezed on price. Okay.
And what you just said here is, I think, something we both need to emphasize, and it's the fact that as accounting professionals, they did go and invest in themselves to get the education they have to be competent in bookkeeping, accounting, tax, and so forth. So they clearly saw the value of investing in that education and getting that experience. The same is true for the advisory work. You need to invest in and put forth the effort to learn and become an expert as an advisor, so you can step into that space confidently. I
Yeah.
refer to two things as being essential for your success: your competence, your ability to look the business owner in the eye and say, I can do this, but the
Yeah.
competence to then deliver on that product so that you
Yeah.
can retain the client. And in order to have that competence, you need to learn the best practices, the
Yeah.
processes, the systems that are most effective in the advisory space. And so you do need to invest in this. It is a new product line that you're providing, and
Yeah.
you're going to be doing it as a new revenue stream to your firm. Well, you need to actually put the time and energy into it to make sure that it is a quality service that you're delivering. So I agree with you. It is something that it takes effort, and you need to be willing to put forth that effort and perhaps
Yeah.
that investment as well. So very well said on your part there. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for that.
Thank you.
Are we ready for pricing?
Yeah, we're ready for pricing. Let's go for it.
What advice do you have as it relates to pricing? Because I think for my listeners, they have a pretty good understanding, at least I hope they do, having heard me
Yeah.
so many times, with what it is they should be charging for bookkeeping services, accounting
Yeah.
services, tax preparation, tax planning. But advisory, how do you advise your clients to package their services as advisory packages?
Yeah. So, first of all, confidence is going to be the biggest Achilles heel, or lack of confidence, when it comes to pricing. So I just want to put that out there, that I might throw a number out and you might go, oh my gosh, that's too much, I could never charge that. And I
Okay.
will say to you that there are some people that can charge that, but the thing that makes them be able to charge it versus you is you don't believe in yourself and they do. All right. So pricing is subjective depending on how a person feels. However, there are different ways that you can do pricing. You can do pricing by the hour. Don't recommend it, right? You can do pricing by the project, which is more like consulting instead of advisory. So say my client who fixes messes, she will price on that 90 days. She will charge £5,000, which is the equivalent of about, I would say, $7,000, something like that, to clear up a bit of a mess. And she might speak to them a couple of times in those 90 days and do a bit of work for them as well. Okay. But what my biggest belief is if someone gives you $10,000, you should be able to, and I'm using should in a terrible way, but I would love for you to be able to help them make or save 100,000, or make or save lots and lots of time, because they're the only two things that people want to buy, right?
Mhm.
More time, or make more money, or save more money. So if you can price in accordance to the transformation you give, and if your transformation is helping them save time, what's that worth to them? Or if the transformation is helping them save money, what's that worth to them, or make money? So pricing is very subjective, because if you can't articulate the transformation, you're going to go straight and go, well, this is going to take me 3 hours every single month, so I'm going to charge $200 a month for that. So that's $600 for advisory. Or you're going to look to your neighbor and go, Bob down the road charges $2,000 a month for advisory, so I'm going to charge $2,000 a month. So I like to say, let's take that step back and go, what's the value you're giving your client? And if you can't articulate the value, you've got to work on that first. And I like a 10x return. So when my clients give me £5,000, I easily want to make them 50,000. My goal is to make them 500,000. So I undersell and over deliver. So the accountants need to undersell and over deliver. Because it's advisory, it's subjective, right? You're pricing on transformation. You're not list pricing, which is how you would price compliance.
Very good advice. No, one of the things I will add to this is I was just at a conference for advisors, and at the conference we did talk about pricing, and they actually were very good at the conference to share the averages that were going on within the industry, and it was in line with what I was experiencing as well. And basically, and these are US dollars, but we can obviously convert them to pounds, is the average was basically $1,500 to $3,000 a month.
Yep.
The average for the accounting related advisory services was $2,500 a month.
Yep.
There were outliers that were charging as much as $5,000. There was an example of somebody charging $10,000 a month.
Yep.
They worked with law firms.
Yep.
And so the range was there. And as
Yep.
an engagement, you can see that if you work with value, you can obviously explain what your worth is. If you can tie to it, obviously, the time or the money benefits that you're going to be working towards with your client, they can
Yep.
see the return on investment with that. But the whole point is if you're coming in with great advisory practices, you're actually going on the journey as you described earlier, this will be an experience that will save them time and make them money. And that's one of the things that I think is so incredibly important for this. And when it comes to the pricing, I believe we could all say that if we were earning, say, $2,500 a month for this additional service, it would clearly be not only worth our time, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's something that would complement very well the services that we're already providing, many
Yeah.
of which you're sometimes saying correctly that we're offering these services for free anyway.
Yeah.
So this is a great full circle of what are we doing? Who's it for? And how are we going to get paid for it? So I like that. So here's where I'd like to go next. Accounting professionals, what do you feel holds them back to embrace and provide this type of service with their clients? Because they have the experience, they have the
Yeah.
education, they
Yeah.
have that perspective that the business owner is lacking, so they can bring it to the business. But what holds them back from saying, this is something I offer and I'm willing to have you pay me for it?
Honestly, and I will be honest, the profession doesn't have enough pain. You can run an accounting firm, you can earn okay money from it, you can have 2 holidays a year, you can work like fury, but you have respect from the world because it's a great profession to be in, and you can live a pretty okay life having a traditional accounting firm. So there's no pain. So when people like you and I come along and say, "Hey, let's help with marketing, let's help you with advisory," they're like, "No, that stinks of effort and I'm okay." Really? And I really think, and I always say, when I say stuff like this, I'm like, I'm saying this with love. I want to help you. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm very British. I'm very straight down the line. But I don't want to say laziness, because it's not laziness. It's literally, life is okay. I'm just going to carry on doing what I've always done. You get a few people who are like, I want more. You get some that go, I'm done with the amount of time that I spend. So advisory is the answer to that. But a lot of people, until AI probably takes over and until the bots take over completely and until everything is offshored, the accountants are going to keep on doing what they've always done and keep on getting what they've always got, because the pain just isn't there for them to try something new. Because personality wise, they did accounting because it was safe. And right now they still feel safe. Doesn't matter. You and I hang out on LinkedIn all the time. It's scaremongering everywhere we look, right? But the reality is, people are still saying, I need an accountant, and accountants are still getting clients. That's the reality. Give it 5 years, and if Netflix comes along for the accounting profession, maybe advisory is their only answer. But right now, the pain's just not there, in my opinion, right? This is the way I see it.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you just shared. There is still money to be made in traditional accounting services,
Yeah,
and therefore that business model still is
yeah,
relevant. You can
yeah,
provide bookkeeping, accounting, tax
yeah,
services, and do very well. I
yeah,
would dare say still be profitable, still be
yeah,
successful, still have a great
yeah,
quality of life.
yeah,
And so I think that's something that holds people back. But
yeah.
what is pushing some towards the advisory services is, in fact, the commoditization of the accounting services, the
Yes,
AI and such that's automating things. But I would rather be kind of running towards this next stage in the accounting profession than push towards it. I'd like to
yes,
be on the front edge and openly embrace that. And so as a school, we try to really give voice to the accounting professional to let them know you do have a unique perspective. You understand the language of business. You're
yeah,
seeing things about the business that clearly the business owner isn't aware of or seeing the same
absolutely.
as you. You have so much to bring to the business that would help them be more successful. And if I can
Yes,
just empower you to have the confidence and the competence to speak up and
yeah,
actually now know how to charge for this and deliver this, I think you're
yes,
more inclined to actually go to that level. The second thing I'd say is some people are a little bit more reluctant to work with clients at this level. They like the fact that they're just providing financials and
yeah,
what they do with it is totally fine.
yeah,
But this takes a little bit more engagement. You do have to become a little bit more involved with the client and meet with them more regularly. So there is a little bit more of commitment that is necessary. But I'm going to complement that with the fact that it does mean you can make more money with fewer
yeah,
clients and less time. Well, there's
yeah.
a big win right there.
Huge win. And if you are somebody that wants to get your life back, because an accounting business is hard work, it can be hard work. It can be a lot of work, not necessarily
Mhm.
hard. Some find it easy. But if you want to get your life back, you have to change your business model. You can't just get more clients, because that just compounds the problem. And
Is Go ahead.
Sorry, go on, Roger. You were going to say.
Well, no, I was just going to start wrapping this up because I think we've made an excellent point here, but I want you to finish your thought.
Well, what I was going to say is actually to go back to what you said a moment ago about the accountants are needed because they do have those insights. And one of the biggest problems that I see is one out of every two businesses go out of business within 5 years. They are currently turning to business coaches to go and get the support in how to grow their business. Clearly, it's not working, right? And the reason why it's not working is because most business coaches have never run a business. They have no idea about money, and they're really good at getting people whirled up into a frenzy and asking for money, right? So this is how I feel about it. I'm one myself, okay? So I'm talking about myself. And there are some great business coaches out there. But I tell you what, the best people out there to advise businesses are the ones that can have 3 conversations. One is the future conversation. So where do you want your business to be? 2 is the strategy conversation. How are we going to reach that future? And the third one, the business coaches can't have, which is the money conversation. And this is why accountants can save the economic climate that we're going through at the moment. I know that you're going through quite a lot at the moment. But, here in the UK as well, we really struggle in the UK. 1 in every 2 businesses go out of business. Who can help? The only people who haven't stepped up yet are accountants, and they can help. So I would love for accountants to hear like the call of the wild, right? And hear their calling that they are the people that is going to stop these businesses going out of business, because they have something that business coaches don't have, which is the money conversation. They can have all 3, but they are the only ones that can have the money conversation. And sadly, some accountants can't even have that. And that's a whole nother conversation. But
It is.
yeah. So that I just wanted to go back to what you were saying about the advice that they're giving and the advice that they're getting.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you elevated the accounting profession just as it should be. We have a unique perspective with business as business coaches, advisors, that others do not, because of our understanding of the financials. And that's one of the things that is hugely important to the success of the company. So when we complement the advisory with the accounting services we're offering, it is a powerful mixture. And I think that's something very important to share to the accounting profession. So well said there. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to start wrapping a few things up here as it relates to our conversation. One, this has been wonderful, but I'd like to point out to my listeners that Amanda does also have a podcast. So she is a fellow podcast host. So if you'd like to learn more about her podcast, it is the Business Advisor Podcast. And so definitely check out her episodes and listen to more of what she's sharing on this very topic here. You can go to the episode description and find out more about her show, or find it on the standard podcast platforms. It is called the Business Advisor Podcast. The other thing I'd like to point out is she is providing here to the listeners, to you, an opportunity to get the Business Advisor Playbook for free. This is something you can go to the episode description and find more information about. And I would encourage you to take advantage of it, because as we've been discussing here today, we do need to take more of an advisor role with our clients, and rightfully so, get paid for that. So I'd encourage you to check out more what you can be doing to move into this space, or if you're already there, perfect what it is you're providing as you're working with your clients. Now, as it relates to this, I also want to point out that Universal Accounting Center is also offering some information. You can go to universalaccounting.com, and they're fine with the free resources, an ebook that is called Your Profit and Growth Expert. It's there that we talk about the specifics related to advisory work, what that engagement literally looks like for your clients. And I would encourage you to check out that book. You can likewise go to the episode description to find that information as well. In addition to that, I would encourage you to consider becoming a certified profit and growth expert. A profit and growth expert is someone who actually does deliver these services as we've described today with confidence and competence. Why? Because you've been trained on the very 5 things that they need to understand as a business to become leaders and build towards their exit, building an asset that they can be proud of and leave with basically the monies they deserve. So definitely check out what it is you can do today to become a certified profit and growth expert. Go to the episode description and learn more about that. Now, as a summary of the call, and then I'll come back to Amanda for her closing thoughts, I was really pleased with how we started with her father's story. I think so many accounting professionals do struggle initially when they're just going out there with the skills they have, the experience they have, to get clients that they deserve. So to begin this discussion about the fact that the real focus does need to go into the marketing, the selling, and pricing, I think was very important. The other thing that I thought was very valuable is we were talking about advisory work. What is it actually? And I appreciated Amanda's description of how it actually is relevant to accounting and how the accounting profession can uniquely provide advisory work that others are not. Now, we went basically kind of from the backwards forwards as we talked about what that engagement would look like. And she was explaining that we need to leverage our experience and education and really package up what it is that we have as it relates to advisory services so that we can productize it as she described it, to where in time with muscle memory, each engagement becomes easier and easier and less time so that you can be paid what you're worth. In addition to that, we talked about what that engagement might look like, the time commitment. She gave a rule of thumb is to say you're willing to commit 10 hours a week, you can in a month work with as many as 21 clients. And so I think that was very powerful to understand at least what that might look like. And from a commitment point of view, maybe just the few hours a month with that client. And then we talked about pricing, the fact that this is something you can be paid very well for as it relates to the services, especially when you're considering what you're paid for your bookkeeping, accounting, and tax services. This is by far the most wealthy type service that you can provide that would bring in a well-deserved revenue stream. And one of the things that I'd like to point out is she did say that too often we're actually providing all of this for free. So to have that pricing discussion, I think was valuable. She did point out that she discourages hourly pricing. She pointed out that flat rate is more appropriate for project type work, but to come up with a package that you can actually charge monthly so that you can actually deliver this with confidence and give them that return on investment, whether it's the time or the ROI that they're looking for, is very important. And she did explain that she tries to actually 10x or more what it is she's delivering so she can wow her clients. All of this was, I think, valuable information as it relates to the advisory services that we've discussed today. Amanda, what would you add as well?
Oh, wow. So I would add that we have covered a little bit around productizing. So we very much got clear on the fact that if we can create a repeatable process, then we can start to get our team involved if we want to. Because I think one of the biggest fears is that, how I'm going to get stuck doing all of it, need to get my team to get involved. So we productize it, right? We systemize it. We also talked a lot, you covered everything really, but we talked a lot about, we kept putting off pricing, and I don't want to actually underplay why I kept putting it off, because so many people go, how do I price? And actually you're starting at the wrong end. You've got to start with, what is it that you can offer? Who's your audience? And how do you package up? So we talked about all of that. And then we spoke about pricing in relation to value and transformation. I don't use value pricing. I use transformation pricing, because I think that that's a much better place to go in, because value is subjective, whereas transformation is pretty clear in data. We talked about the three conversations: the money conversation, the future conversation, and the strategic conversation. And yeah, you covered everything else. Like, we covered loads.
I love it. That was wonderful. That was a good summation as well. One of the things, just to kind of add to your pricing explanation, you're right. In order to come to pricing, you have to reverse engineer everything first. What is it you're offering? What is the value it brings? What is the ROI that they're going to experience as a client? And only until you understand what is you're offering and what the win is, can it be then defined as having this value. And that's where you get to your ultimate pricing clarification. So I appreciated that. That was a good explanation. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up. Obviously, if you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd encourage you to subscribe to the podcast. Love to have you join us each and every week for these discussions as I bring on the experts and we discuss various things related to building the premier accounting firm in your area. Now, as it relates to the podcast, if you've enjoyed this episode, I'd also like to encourage you, in addition to subscribing, going to universalaccounting.com, and they're finding in the site navigation the podcast section. It's here that we've collected highlights. These are basically playlists that we've put together for you to binge listen. This is where we've actually taken topically and put together things as it relates to your needs, whether it's marketing, selling, pricing, mental health, tech stacks, staff training, all the things that you need to dive deep into based on your current situation. So go check that out and binge listen those accordingly. In addition to this, I would like to encourage you to go to universalaccountingschool.com. It's here where Universal actually offers a variety of programs, courses, resources to help you as you're working on building your business, whether it's training for you as the owner, training for your staff, all of which is necessary for you to offer quality services related to bookkeeping, accounting, tax planning, CFO, and advisory services. Check it out. Find out what it is you can do to elevate your practice and do so more competently and confidently. Also, I'd like to invite you to join us for GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. This is a conference that is a must attend. Why? It's here that we put on the stage the experts. We get to meet one another as peers, collaborate, build friends and networks. And also you get to meet my staff, myself included, where we get to actually see you and see what it is we can do to assist you to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal. This is a conference you do not want to miss. Go now to universalaccounting.com. In the navigation, you'll see GrowCon. Register today and join us for GrowCon. It is an event you do not want to miss. It's a conference for all owners of accounting firms. Now, that being said, obviously, as it relates to the show, thanks for joining us. I hope you got some actionable items, some things, insights, tidbits that you can act on. And with that being said, join us again next week. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day and be safe out there. Amanda, that was awesome.
Thank you. Did you enjoy it?
Very much so. I thought we had a wonderful conversation, covered a lot
Yeah.
of great things. I think my listeners will be very happy with it. So
Good,
here's what
good.
I'm going to have you do. In the chat, I gave you that text.
Yep.
I'm going to have you now record that promo piece.
Okay. Ready? Like
Yep.
right now?
Yeah, go
When
ahead.
you're ready.
Okay. This is Amanda C. Watts, and it was an absolute pleasure and good fun to record with Roger an episode of Building the Premier Accounting Firm. We discussed all things from productizing your advisory services, the kind of conversations that you should have with accountants. We talked about pricing and how it's important to price once you've uncovered your value. And I invite you to listen and join us today.
That was perfect. That was superb.